The Lions' real Super Bowl window might be closed. It's hard to not overreact after week 1. Yes, I'll admit it. But it was also a big worry coming into the season of whether or not the Lions would be able to perform as well after having to replace both coordinators that were fantastic. The roster is still similar, sure, but coaching can mean everything. The sky isn't falling and it's early, but man, what a rough stretch it has been for the Lions after how great everything was. They get upset in the divisional round last year, lose both coordinators, and now get crushed by their rival to open the regular season. Just a complete disaster of a week 1. But is it time to worry? Or are we going to look back in 5 weeks when the Lions are 5-1 and a top team in the NFC again and feel silly? The Lions were super successful last season and have definitely escaped the basement of the NFL, where they were a laughingstock for so long. After not winning a playoff game since 1991, the Lions won 2 in 2023 and went 12-5. They ended up making it to the NFC Championship. It was a magical year and a sign that the Lions were for real. Then last year, they were even better in the regular season, going 15-2. They did lose the divisional round to the Commanders, but it was still a great season. There was a lot of success, but when you have success, guys get opportunities elsewhere, and you have to sustain success, and that is what is really hurting right now. Because the Lions were so great, they ended up losing both coordinators to head coaching positions. Ben Johnson was a hot head coach candidate, and the Lions were probably lucky just to get another year out of him. He ended up winning Assistant Coach of the Year last season, and then finally made the long-awaited jump, taking the Bears head coach job, where he is now in charge of figuring it all out with Caleb Williams. Then there's Aaron Glenn, who was a fantastic defensive coordinator for the Lions. He took the Jets head coach job, which is pretty cool because he did used to play for the Jets. That was another big loss for the Lions, and all of a sudden, Dan Campbell had to completely restart at coordinator. The Lions went out and hired John Morton to be the new offensive coordinator. He's an experienced coach, and he's been an OC before at USC in 2009 and 2010, and then for the Jets in 2017. He was most recently the pass game coordinator for the Broncos last year, but was actually a senior offensive assistant for the Lions in 2022, so there is already a previous relationship there. Then at defensive coordinator, it's now Kevin Shepard, a Lions guy through and through. He's been coaching there since 2021, and he made his way all the way up. He was the linebackers coach last season and even played for the Lions in 2018, of course, as a linebacker. It's only week 1, so a slow start isn't a huge deal, but if week 1 is a sign of what is to come, there's a big drop off at the coordinator spot from last year. There were some other key guys lost in free agency, which doesn't help. Cornerback Carlton Davis feels like the notable one. He got a 3-year, $54 million deal from the Patriots. Guard Kevin Zeitler also landed with the Titans on a 1-year deal, leaving a bit of a hole there on the offensive line. Otherwise, the roster makeup does feel pretty similar. They even brought in some really good key new guys pretty much through the draft. They had a really good first 2 days of the draft, I'd say. They plugged a hole at defensive tackle by taking Tyleik Williams in the first round at 28. He was a beast on the line for Ohio State. Then the bigger name you've probably heard of is Isaac TeSlaa. He's a Michigan kid. He ended up going to Arkansas, but before that, he was at Hillsdale, a Division II school in Michigan. He looked good in camp and in the preseason. Just as a whole, that is a really good wide receiver room, I think, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, who recently got an extension. Finally, there's Tate Ratledge, who the Lions took in the second round. He was a stud at Georgia, and he fits right in at guard for the Lions after Zeitler left. The roster construction, I think, is still good, and the Lions really did fill the necessary holes well, but man, everything can come down to coaching, and week 1 was bad. It was concerning. I'm not sure things could have gone too much worse for the Lions in week 1. Not only did they get beat up by their rival, the Packers, but just every little thing looked worse compared to last season. It ended up being a 27-13 win for Green Bay, but a Lions touchdown with literally 55 seconds left helped it look a lot better. Hopefully, that gave some solid momentum going forward. It was Jared Goff finding Isaac TeSlaa for his first NFL touchdown, which is cool, but the game was very much over. That was the only touchdown of the day for Detroit. Jake Bates had field goals from 30 and 27, and the rest was all Packers. Jordan Love threw for 2 touchdowns. He hit Tucker Kraft for 15 yards and Jaden Reed for 17. The other points came from a Josh Jacobs 3-yard touchdown in the 4th fourth quarter to make it 24-6. And Brandon McManus had 2 field goals from 34 and 38. Love finished with 188 yards and didn't throw a pick. Romeo Doubs was the top receiver thanks to a 48-yard catch. He ended up finishing with 2 catches for 68 in total. Then Jacobs was the clear top back. He had 19 carries for 66 yards. And then, as for the Lions, Jared Goff had to throw a lot. I mean, they were constantly trailing in this game. He ended up at 225 yards. He did have a pick, and he finished with a 52.9 quarterback rating. He also got sacked 4 times. Sam Laporta played well, 6 catches for 79 yards. And then the run game was, I thought, terrible. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they combined for 20 carries for 44 yards. Safe to say that it just wasn't a memorable game to look back on for the Lions. Next up is the Bears on Sunday. Maybe they can get back to 500 there, but they do have the Ravens in week 3 and the Chiefs in week 6, both on the road. So there are some tough challenges on the way for the Lions that they're going to have to prove that they can hang with some good teams again. Last year, the Lions did win the NFC North and were even the top seed in the NFC and got a bye into the divisional round. To be good enough to win the division again, that's up in the air, I think. It took being 15-2 last year because they did not have a lot of room to spare there. The Vikings went 14-3, and even the Packers went 11-6. The NFC North was brutal. The Lions came in with some big question marks around the coordinators and how much the coaching would dip in quality, but the Vikings have some of the same questions. It's just around quarterback. Sam Darnold was great last year, plain and simple, but he wasn't seriously elite. There's a reason he's playing for the Seahawks now and not on a huge deal in Minnesota. It's up to JJ McCarthy now, who is actually getting his chance to be a starting NFL quarterback after he suffered a torn meniscus in the preseason as a rookie. Hopefully he seriously did get to learn behind Darnold, and now here we are. He's a starter a year later after being a first-round pick. Kevin O'Connell is the quarterback whisperer and gets the best out of his guys, that's for sure. But McCarthy's a bit of a mystery right now until we see it. It's a similar-looking team that was so good last season, and it always helps to have Justin Jefferson for a young quarterback. Christian Darrisaw is back healthy at left tackle. The Vikings drafted Donovan Jackson from Ohio State in the first round to help the line. The pieces could definitely still be there for the Vikings to be good. Then the Packers have already clearly proven they can beat the Lions. No doubts were left there. Jordan Love continues to play at a high level. He has solid weapons around him. Matthew Golden out of Texas enters the fold as a first-round pick to help the passing game, and then good luck with Jacobs on the ground. It's a talented team with a good defense, a defense that is now significantly better and a lot more scary to game plan against with Micah Parsons. Parsons got traded and got a 4-year, $188 million deal, but also giving up 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark to get him tells me the Packers think that they could be legit and a real contender. And in week 1, that was definitely true. That does leave the Bears and Ben Johnson. He stayed in division. Now he gets to face the Lions twice a year, and he has his hands full trying to get the most out of Caleb Williams after a solid but slightly disappointing rookie year. He has some great weapons like Roma Dunze and DJ Moore, and the Bears just took Michigan tight end Colson Loveland in the first round. The Bears could be much improved, but I still think Chicago is probably the odd man out in the division. The NFC North isn't easy these days. The Lions could even slip away fast if they can't stay at a high level. The players are there to keep it up, but man, the coordinators are gone. That's a fair concern. Winning, or at least looking competent in week 1, could have washed away some of those worries. Now it feels like we could really just be 1 or 2 weeks away from a full panic for the Lions if things don't get better.